So how do you do it? Well, I didn't want to have to talk about AI, but I'm going to have to talk about AI.
Well, actually, I was going to say, Peter, we have so many questions, and I'm sure AI is part of that. So let's just going to start putting them on the screen, and let's run through them because
throw them on, and I'll pick them up as I go. This is like jazz.
Let's start with how have the hiring trends in cybersecurity shifted over the years, and what's the next big trend we should be prepared for?
Cyber trends over there. Okay, here's the good news, bad news. So about five quarters ago, bottom fell out of the labor market for cyber, and for a lot of IT, but particularly for cybersecurity. Now we were for about, I don't know, like 1999 through 2002. If you could spell cyber and fog a mirror, you could make six figures. Anybody could get a job. And there was a lot of kind of false information that came through that experience of like anybody can get work, because you could point to lots of different causes and say, this is how I did it, this is how I did it, this is how I did, this is how I do it. And in fact, those didn't have anything to do with it. We were just in a really rich market. If you want to see an example of something like that right now, look at the kind of hiring that's being done among the AI frontier labs, where people are talking in serious terms about billion-dollar compensation packages. Now we're not getting in on that. There are probably about 500 people on the planet who are in that market, or could be, but it follows the same kind of curve to the wave, and that will crest and fall. So again, that ended up fourth quarter 2023. Fourth quarter, it's interesting because the fourth quarter is usually when you make your money. It is the best quarter of the year every year until then. So it fell apart. Some of it had to do with expectations around AI. More of it had to do with things out of Washington that I won't get into, but you all know. A lot of it had to do with overinvestment and the sort of recovery from the disruption of the pandemic. Some of it had to do, I suspect, with kind of post-pandemic trauma. We're still getting over it. We saw a lot of people get sick. Some of us are still sick. And a lot of us have not recovered. I live in a place where people are pretty good at dealing with dying, Mexico. We saw a lot of caskets, but even here, people are still having trouble recovering. Americans are not very good at dealing with dying. And so I think there was a kind of wave of hopelessness and despair that was hitting at the same time. And then this inrush of interest in AI and an outflow of capital. So the hundreds of billions of dollars that are going into things like silicon, like data center capacity, like fat salaries in the AI space, that capital comes from somewhere. And that used to be cyber's money, right? So you see a drop off at that period. Now, there was a period that seemed like it was coming to an end in Q1 of this year. So in Q1, we actually saw this like jump in hiring activity, and it looked like it had legs, right? April comes around, tariff talks kick in, and lots of economic certainty comes in. Another thing that I should mention, sort of maybe as a footnote, is that there were tax rules having to do with when you could write off investment in AI that were not renewed. They sort of like slipped out of the tax code when people weren't paying attention, and that took a lot of the investment out of the tech space. And the tech space is where a lot of the investment and a lot of hiring starts, and there's a cascade effect from there. So it's not just AI. It's not just tariffs. In fact, the tariffs we're not really sure yet. It's definitely not labor going overseas. I'm in that business. I follow India. I follow, the offshore nearshoring business. It hasn't really changed. So please don't blame me or the people who I try and place, because things have been pretty stable for us.